issue that became one that received national attention. Nora is now, she has found herself in South Dakota. So we have Bill Leaders here from the Wisconsin Center for Investigative Journalism, and he's going to accept the award on Nora's behalf. So congratulations.
Thank you. I was kind of hoping that I'd be introduced as Nora, so I could tell you that I am not, nor have I ever been, Nora Hurdle. I can confirm that Nora is indeed awesome. She's a wonderful young woman, very hardworking, very talented, and I'm very proud of her and of all of the interns who work with the Wisconsin Center for Investigative Journalism. They are integral to our operation. They do very difficult and challenging stories, and they're amazing. They're awesome. I'll tell you a story. When I started at the center in June of 2011, there were a couple of interns who had been there almost a full year, a pair of sisters, and they scared the hell out of me. These girls were so talented. They were so smart. They could do things that I, after 30 years as a reporter, had no idea how to do, with spreadsheets and graphics and creating maps, and they had opinions about how words should be used, like every good writer should have, and they just knocked me away. And they kind of intimidated me too, and after a while they moved on and we got some new interns, and the new interns were kind of like insecure and mousy and, you know, inexperienced, and I thought, well, that's natural, that's normal. I was more familiar with that. But after a year, they were the exact same way. Since new interns developed self-confidence, they developed a skill set, they developed a sense of assertiveness about it. They became real reporters. And that's, I think, the most important thing that the Wisconsin Center for Investigative Journalism does, is it helps train the next generation of investigative reporters. It takes people who want to be investigative reporters, and it teaches them how to do it. The story for which we are being recognized here today was a collaboration with MinPost, which is an online service in the Twin Cities. They did a story about a Minnesota family and the Minnesota side of the equation. We did a story about a Wisconsin family and the Wisconsin side of the equation. And we did kind of a compare and contrast piece to show how different things were between the two states, depending on how they approached the opportunity and the challenge of the Affordable Care Act. And in Minnesota, the family profile was someone who had not had insurance and now would newly qualify for coverage, and a lot of the anxiety that attended to their lives was going to be alleviated. And in Wisconsin, it was actually a little bit more complicated, because the family that we found and that we profiled had both things happening that are happening to families in Wisconsin. The mother and the father and one of the children were going to lose coverage because they would no longer be eligible under the way that the state was interpreting the law. But their son, who was without insurance, was now going to become newly eligible for coverage. And I thought this is one of the significant things about what has happened in Wisconsin that really hasn't been explained all that well, and a lot of people don't understand, is that there are a fair number, tens of thousands of people who are going to be moved on to coverage under Badger Care in the state of Wisconsin at the same time that others are being moved off. And then in this one family, we had an example of both. I'll tell you what was hard about this story, and it wasn't just a little bit hard, it was a lot hard. It was finding that family. To find the family whose story we could tell. Nora and I worked days, weeks, probably close to a month of constant effort to try to find someone whose story to tell. We called up the head of Human Services Operations in more than one county. I won't tell you which counties, but we called a number of counties and said, can you find us a person whose story we can tell? We reached out to navigators, and we reached out to frontline social service staff. Find us someone whose story we can tell. And everyone kept coming back and saying, well, I've tried, but I couldn't find anyone. And the statistic is 77,000 people in Wisconsin will lose coverage under this change. That's not as good a story journalistically as finding one family that is willing to talk about it. And that was the hard thing for us. So I know all of you are in the field. I know that you all work with people. I do respect that people have a right to privacy and they have a right to make decisions about whether they should become the subject of media attention, but I will tell you that for the purpose of communicating your issues to the broader public, one of the most important things is going to be to find those people who are willing to tell their stories and are willing to be front and center about how changes brought by government will affect their lives. That is critical to the ability of media to make that story real for people. And I also just want to say it's an honor to share the podium with John Peacock, who's someone I've known over the years. I've called him many times in for various stories as a reporter. He's always been helpful. He's always been authoritative and informative, and I think the world of him, and I think you're lucky to have people like that working on your side. Thank you.